My name is Mary Norman. I've been married for 4 years and have a 3-year-old child. My husband is kind, and every year on our wedding anniversary and my birthday, he arranges for our child to stay with my parents so we can celebrate together. No matter how busy he is, he always insists on properly celebrating these special days. He has always valued me as his wife. My husband works as a freelance writer. He seems to get work from various publishers, but whether that's the whole truth, I'm not sure, haha. Since I also work, we keep our finances separate and share household expenses. Ideally, I should probably be giving my husband an allowance from his earnings, but due to the nature of his work, he said it would be difficult to work with a fixed allowance. And so, another birthday of mine rolled around. I was sure my husband had prepared a surprise and was waiting for me. With that thought, I returned home. Usually, my little daughter would come running to greet me, but she wasn't there today. She must be at my parents' house for today's surprise. Looking back, I can't believe how naive I was. But at that time, I trusted and loved my husband, so I never doubted him. "Hello, I'm home." As I entered and started to take off my shoes, I noticed something. Huh? Women's shoes, I guessed, maybe? They were high heels, which I would never wear. And they were quite large. There are women with feet this size, huh? She may be a tall woman like a bear. Thinking this, I went further inside. And there, I found my husband with a young woman. She was very beautiful. This must be the guest. Though she seems petite for those shoes. "Welcome home," my husband said with a grin, his hand on her shoulder. "What? What's this?" "Today's your birthday, right?" "Yes, it is, but who is this lady? A guest?" "No, my mistress." "What?" "And here, a present. A divorce paper." "What?" "I'm gonna be with her now. This birthday is the biggest surprise ever, right?" "Wait, this is beyond a surprise. Why? Who is she?" "So, she's my mistress." "So, you've been cheating?" "Yeah, that's right." "Oh, okay." My mind went blank, unable to comprehend what was happening. I had never suspected my husband of cheating. And here he was, introducing this beautiful woman as his mistress. Could this just be a shocking way of surprising me? "She's a freelance writer, just like me," my husband said with a smile, introducing her. But why was he introducing his mistress with such a smile? It's definitely not normal. Next to him, the woman was smiling happily. I stared at her while listening to my husband's story. "Have we met somewhere before?" I asked, interrupting him. Annoyed at being interrupted, he explained that she was a famous writer. It's strange if you don't know such a famous writer. But the thing is, I work at a publishing house. Therefore, I meet even unknown writers like my husband and usually recognize them, even if only faintly. And I tend to remember most writers, thinking they might come in handy someday. But, "Excuse me, your name is?" "Andrew Kirby," she said with a deep, hoarse voice, as if she had a cold. "The image is completely different." "Sure, such people exist, but..." "Andrew Kirby." I desperately searched my memory for this writer. However, I couldn't find any Andrew Kirby. Strange. If she's such a famous person, I should know her. My husband pouted, unsatisfied. "Not everything you know is everything there is. Besides, if you don't know such a famous writer, aren't you failing as an editor?" But I had never heard of her. Even if she was a newcomer, I should have at least heard her name. As I scrutinized her with an editor's eye, my husband, unconcerned, started talking about divorce. "So, I'm sorry, but I love Andrew, so please, let's get a divorce." "When did this start?" "Well, about 6 months ago, I guess. We met online. A dating app." "Yeah, that's it." So, he was womanizing from the start. I was completely oblivious. A good husband, a kind husband, a perfect husband. That's what I had convinced myself of. Due to his freelance job, there were times he didn't come home or stayed out, and I had no choice but to accept that. But it turns out he was taking advantage of that trust. My husband, who had brilliantly betrayed my trust. He kept going on about her beauty, her youth, her femininity, and the depth of her love. All to me, his wife. I felt no anger. I was surprised at how emotionless I was. I was just staring blankly at her. And then it hit me. I've seen her before. Where had I seen her? When did we meet? The moment I thought I recognized her, my mind started racing, pulling her from my memories. That's right, I've seen her a few times at the publishing house. I never had a reason to ask for her name, so I ignored her, but I've definitely met her. A smile involuntarily spread across my face. What's so funny? Nothing. You're really weird. If you're thinking something strange, just stop it. Something strange? Yeah, like taking out some weird grudge on Andrew. Jealousy? Exactly. No matter how you look at it, Andrew's more beautiful. She's more feminine. You don't stand a chance against her in jealousy. He's really got nerve saying that. He'll regret this soon enough. So, please, let's get a divorce. He pleaded desperately. I just kept staring at her. Come on, you'll agree to the divorce, right? My love is not with you anymore. Please. I thought to myself, so that's how it is, and casually replied, sure. What? What do you mean by sure? You want a divorce, right? Fine by me. Really? His face lit up with joy. If you're that eager to divorce, why not? I have no intention of chasing after someone who says they don't love me anymore. Really? You mean it? Yes, I'm fine with it. Because that woman is. As I picked up a pen and started signing the divorce papers, I said, I'd rather see you happy. Of course, that was a big lie. After what he did, he deserved to fall into hell. That's what I truly thought. But, even though we're splitting, I'm gonna ask for alimony and child support. You're the one who cheated, after all. Sure, I'll pay anything to be with Andrew. That's great. And I'm taking the kids. So, I'll take the house too. It'd be sad to make the kids live in a small place. Sure, fine by me. All I need is Andrew. What a fool. Abandoning his family for Andrew. He was a truly fool. I put down the pen and handed the divorce papers to my now ex-husband Ken. No matter how tough it gets, be happy. Thanks. He replied, grabbed her hand, and left the house. Watching them leave, I smiled, no matter how tough, even if you fall into hell, be happy. If you can. And whispered to myself. A month later. Ken contacted me. He desperately wanted to talk. Curious to see his face, I gladly agreed and went to the arranged place. There, haggard Ken awaited me. Wow, he lasted longer than I expected. I thought he'd contact me sooner. Sitting down, I sipped the coffee the waiter brought. Let's see what he's got to say. I looked at Ken. He started with how things had gone terribly wrong and then mentioned he got married. Oh, congratulations. That's great. But it's not good. Why not? Well, it's about Andrew. Andrew? Yeah, Andrew, he turned out to be a man. I didn't show any surprise, just took another sip of my coffee. Why aren't you shocked? Did you know? Yes. How did you know? He works for the cleaning company at the publishing house, right? He, or should I say she? Ha! What? Cleaning company? I didn't hear about that. I only saw him a few times, never thought he was the same person. You see, when he's cleaning, he dresses like a man. Sure, he has long hair, but I just thought he was one of those guys who ties it back. And he didn't wear makeup at work, so I thought he was just a good-looking guy. It took me a while to realize he was the same person when we met for the divorce. But I had no idea you were into that kind of thing, so I was pretty surprised inside. This was a lie. Ken couldn't possibly be into men. We've been together for so long, and there was never a hint of it. Maybe he's bi? That's the most I thought about it. The best thing to do was to let him be happy in his own way. You should have told me. Didn't you think it was odd? That someone not an actress could be so beautiful? Even if born beautiful, one needs a strong desire to be a woman to become that pretty. And that femininity, it's not so common in women naturally, especially nowadays. Well, maybe, but... Basically, you knew what men like, right? Maybe, but... Good for you. She was your ideal, right? Just like you wanted. No, it's not like that. Besides, you were too head over heels to listen. Even if I told you he might be a man, you wouldn't have understood. Probably would have blamed me, saying no way he's a man. Maybe you're right. Even if I hadn't said anything, you would have accused me of being jealous. If I had brought up the man theory, you would have definitely said I was just jealous. I didn't want to be accused of that when I was just looking out for you. Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, that's right. Ken said, still clueless about my real thoughts. I knew eventually he would realize she was a man and panic. I would find joy in seeing Ken's reaction. I was sure, and that's exactly what happened. Why didn't you realize it earlier? You should have noticed when you were dating. Well, his voice did concern me. I once commented on how deep it was, and he cried, saying he hated it because a doctor told him his vocal cords were thick. Oh, fake tears, huh? But you would have known once naked. Or did she already have surgery? No, she said she didn't want to do that until we were married. I thought she was so modest. Nice excuse. And Ken fell for it. But didn't you realize before submitting the marriage certificate? There's no field for gender on the marriage certificate. Just husband and wife. Oh, really? And they accepted it? Yeah, they did. Nowadays, many places accept same-sex marriages. Lucky for you it got accepted. I wish it hadn't. But you were so eager to get married. I didn't want to marry a man. You shouldn't say that. You said you loved him so much. Does your love depend on gender? It's not about that, but, you know, the softness when you hug is different. There are muscular women and chubby men. It's all about perspective. And you're already married, so it's too late now. No, I'm thinking of divorcing. Oh, how cruel you are, as usual. Doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. If your hearts are connected, that's all that matters. You are physically connected, aren't you? Well, yeah. Then there's no problem. You're the man in the relationship anyway, right? Yeah. So, nothing's changed. It's not about that. It's about what he's got extra. Well, consider it a bonus. I had imagined this scenario. After all, he was the kind of guy who would bring his lover home and ask for a divorce, a real piece of work. I knew he would react this way once he found out Andrew was a man. But now, asking for a divorce? How much more can he disrespect people? He needs to consider the feelings of the person he married on a whim. You're married now, you should just accept it. Getting a divorce right after marrying is just the worst. Maybe you can transcend the fact that she's a man. I suggested, trying to calm him down. But honestly, I didn't want them to split up or be happy. After all, Ken's descent into hell had just begun. If I don't enjoy everything first, there's no point in having broken up. All the more fun to come. You think so? Of course. No need to rush. Marriage is a long-term thing. I advised him as we parted ways. But the next bombshell came sooner than expected. 2 months later, Ken contacted me again. This time with excitement in his voice. Listen, Andrew has debts. Oh. Why aren't you surprised? Why should I be surprised? That's more surprising. Well, yeah, but still. So? What's the deal with the debt? I asked about it. He said it was for his parents' medical bills and hospital expenses. Well, that sounds like a dutiful thing to do. Yeah, that's true, but I wonder if it's really for his parents. Ken, seeing my smile, asked if I knew something. Why would you think that? You're smiling about such a situation. It's odd. You wouldn't look like that unless you knew something. I can't interfere in a couple's matters. I'm just an outsider. Something feels off. Exes can be perceptive. He sensed something. If you're that worried, why don't you call Andrew and ask again? Maybe I will. Can I call to ask him now? Go ahead. I doubted he would easily reveal anything over the phone. Sure enough, when Ken asked Andrew about the debts, Andrew casually replied, "It's for my parents' medical expenses, remember? I told you before. Did you forget?" So it's really for his parents' medical bills. Right. But I'm pretty sure those medical expenses aren't for his parents. Since she says so, it must be for her parents' hospital bills. What a dutiful wife you've got there. Maybe. Keep worrying, Ken. Though Ken seemed to be caught on something, he didn't pursue it further. However, the dark clouds continued to gather, and 3 months later, Ken showed up at my house with Andrew. We're divorced, so please don't come here without contacting me first. Come on, you must be bored, right? I'm not bored. I'm an editor and have important work to do, like taking a break. I get it, but just hear me out. He really doesn't get it, does he? Fine, come in, I said, reluctantly letting them in. As soon as they were inside, Ken started. You said Andrew was a freelance writer, but do you really know him? Of course, I know your lover and current spouse. If that's your question, you could have just called. No, I mean, is he really a freelance writer? Like I said before, he's a janitor. I don't get this janitor thing. Andrew looked shocked when he heard the word janitor. It's no surprise, considering he had been hiding his true identity and working as a man. Clearly, Andrew wanted to be a writer who could work from home. I have no intention of meddling. I've been deceived. What? With Ken's outburst, Andrew looked utterly dejected. And I couldn't help but feel sorry for him for falling for such a man. And for my past self as well. I was told he's a successful writer. Well, I don't think it was a lie. I hadn't heard his name either and doubted it at first. But after checking, it's true he's a writer, just not a famous one. What do you mean? He's not publishing books or writing magazine columns, but he's been posting about your lovely daily life on social media. Really? He has followers, so why not call himself a writer? But that doesn't make money. Well, it's true that it doesn't make money. He has debts. And it turns out, it's not for his parents' medical expenses, but for his own breast augmentation surgery. Ah, so that's what it was all about. The reason I knew so much about Andrew is thanks to my connections. Anything that piques my interest, I thoroughly research and provide insights to my authors. That's why I'm good at investigating. So when Ken brought Andrew over, claiming he was a lover, and I thought, I've seen him before, could he be a man? I delved deep into research. How adorable, wanting to enlarge your breasts through surgery. It's just a woman's heart, right? Isn't she exactly the type of woman you wanted, Ken? Lucky you. A woman wouldn't need breast augmentation surgery. Oh, some women do go for it. Well, yeah, but at least do the bottom surgery too. Maybe she didn't have enough money for that, right, Andrew? Yes, that's right. The surgery is really expensive. I ran out of money just with the breast augmentation. And you lied about it being for your parents' medical expenses, planning to keep lying if I hadn't confronted you. I'm sorry. Oh, come on. You said you loved him so much, so what's the big deal? Forgive him already. You're such a small man. I have to pay off his stupid debts? Stupid. Yes, stupid, right? That's harsh, calling it stupid. Look, you're acting all high and mighty, but why can't Andrew just pay off his own debts? He's working too, right? If he pays them, there'll be nothing left for living expenses. In the end, I'll have to support him. She's your wife, isn't it natural? You two should work together. Besides, Andrew works as a janitor. He might be earning more than you. I need money for drinks and food, and to go out once in a while. I don't want my money to go towards paying off those debts. That's not your money. What are you talking about? Well, yes, that's true. But that's not the point. The real issue is that Andrew is a man. I can't think of him as a wife. Still making the worst comments. I never intended to marry a man. Ken continued, ignoring Andrew's feelings. Andrew looked downcast, shrinking in on himself. You're just the worst. Why am I the worst? Don't you think you've done anything wrong? I haven't lied. I'm a man through and through. You're missing worse there. What? The worst man through and through. Didn't you tell Andrew you're a successful writer? That's what I heard. I have a column. I'm a successful writer. Oh, that column got cancelled because it wasn't interesting. Why? Because it's obvious, isn't it? No one's gonna pay for a writer whose articles drive readers away. There are writers out there much more interesting than you. That column existed because I spoke up for it. Now that we're divorced, it's only natural they cut it. I'm surprised it lasted this long. What do you mean? He said he had so many columns to write, and he was busy. Was all that a lie? All lies, big lies. Your husband isn't a hotshot writer at all. He only got to write those columns because of my influence, and even then, the feedback from readers was terrible. They found it utterly uninteresting. But he always acted so high and mighty. You're just as much of a liar. Where's this hotshot writer you claim to be? All lies, everywhere. Hold on. Right now, I think Andrew is the more successful writer. His articles are interesting and have a certain charm. They might not have made money before, but if he writes for us, we'll pay him properly, and he could even get his own column. There are plenty of magazines looking for good writers. I can introduce him to some. I believe he can write fascinating articles. Really? That's amazing. Wait a minute. How does this make sense? He's a man, you know? You're a man too, right? And what does being a man or a woman have to do with writing? But then, my job is... We can't use you at our magazine. What about the debts then? I can't expect to pay them. You're earning more now, so you should support me. Hey Andrew, when Ken and I were married, his income was minuscule. There were months he couldn't contribute to living expenses. I had to cover for him. Now that I think about it, he probably needed that money for his affairs. He was like that? That's the kind of person he is. You might have thought he had money because he was generous, but he was just a broke guy, scattering money around trying to catch a cash cow for his fun. All his talk of being wealthy was just a show. I thought he had money. So you set a trap for me thinking I had money? Too bad. You're no different, trying to snag Andrew thinking he was a successful writer. A successful writer would mean a decent income, plus he's young and attractive. All self-inflicted. But. No buts or protests. By the way, I'm going to claim alimony and child support. You said you'd pay, right? Why you say it now? It doesn't matter when I claim it. We're not divorced yet. And I want it all in one lump sum. I can't rely on your income to get my payments. How much is it? That's going to be $60,000 in alimony. I'd like to claim it from Andrew too, but since he took this jerk off my hands, I'll let Andrew off. And for child support, $1,000 a month until our child graduates college. You'll pay it all at once, so it'll be $228,000. Make sure you pay it, even if you have to borrow. That's impossible. There's nothing impossible about it. You can just borrow it, right? It's no big deal. Whether you deposit it to me every month or the place you borrow from makes the deductions, it's just the same in the end. That means more debts? Yes, that's what divorce means. I'm leaving. What are you saying? With that much debt, I can't pay it alone. We're a couple, we should pay it together. Are you kidding me? After all the insults about being a man, and now that you have debts, you want to pay together? I can't accept that. Wait, let's start over. Don't say that. I'll send the divorce papers later. Sign them and submit them to the office. Andrew said, making his exit. With that attitude, Andrew would probably pack his bags and leave before Ken even got back home. Betraying me was bound to have consequences. Serves him right. Hey, Mary, how about we start over? What? What are you talking about? We got along well, didn't we? So, let's start over. I realize I prefer a woman like you over a man. Plus, if we get back together, I wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support, right? You really are the lowest of the low, aren't you? Despite Ken's persistent pleas for a do-over, I remained firm in my refusal. He eventually left, cursing under his breath. Soon after, Ken and Andrew quickly finalized their divorce. The marriage had lasted only about 6 months, which was surprisingly brief. Andrew then made a writer debut at the publishing company where I work. His first piece on same-sex marriage was a short article, but it was a huge hit. With rave reviews from readers, he soon secured a regular column. He seemed to have a wealth of interesting topics and was on his way to becoming quite successful. I'm currently trying to ensure he continues writing for us. As for Ken, his articles were neither interesting nor engaging. And no publishing house wanted to use them. He ended up in a debt hell due to the alimony and child support debts. Despite pitching articles to various publishers, No one was interested or even willing to look at them. Realizing he couldn't make a living this way, he's recently been surviving on odd jobs. He's a writer in name only and seems to be looking for a woman to support him, but I doubt anyone would fall for that now. As for me, after splitting from Ken, I've found mental stability and am living peacefully with my child. Andrew and I occasionally meet for tea or meals. Having both been tormented by the same man, we've developed a bond and enjoy each other's company. Andrew's book is going to be published soon, and I'm thinking of gifting a copy to Ken.